Hello and welcome to the Recursion Cafe, where we play games from the discard pile. In today's game of Unmatched, we have Paul on the left and a rare appearance from Chris on the right. Paul is playing Winter Soldier, a solo ranged fighter with 15 health and 2 movement. He is brainwashed and so his effects cannot be cancelled. Sometimes that's good for him, sometimes that's good for his opponent. But ultimately he's an assassin that walks around and hits really hard. And Chris is playing Nikola Tesla, also a solo ranged fighter with 14 health and 2 movement. He has 2 electrical coils, one that charges at the end of each of his turns, and he uses these for certain abilities on a lot of his cards, as well as if his opponent starts next to him when both coils are charged, he is able to push them away and do a damage. Now Chris would like it said on record that this is his first time playing Tesla, basically. I think he had one practice game about 10 minutes prior to this video. So just for the record, this is his first time playing it. And it looks like both players have maneuvered in, and it looks like Chris is taking the initiative and hitting with a death ray into a complete the mission. So this is an interesting interaction because Paul has to boost first if he wants to, and then Chris gets to use his coils and boost his attack. Paul will boost with the worst card in Winter Soldier's deck, which is Programmed to Kill, making it a 5 defense and making it kind of unattractive for Chris to boost. So he won't, and he'll keep both of his coils for the defense, which I think is pretty on point. So here's a 6, a Without Remorse into Polyphase Coils. Now Chris, I think, has the choice to spend both coils to not only cancel the effects, which he can't, but he can also ignore the value, which means that 6 becomes 0. And it means that Chris is able to draw a card because the effect isn't cancelled, because it cannot be cancelled. So the card swing there in the first 2 interactions is pretty big. Is a second Without Remorse into a Repulsion Blast, meaning Chris takes 4 damage, but he's able to move the opposing fighter up to 2 spaces away. He has no coils left to use on those abilities. But yeah, already Paul went 2 cards down on the first interaction and then gave Chris a card on the second interaction, so already is looking a bit uneven in terms of hand size. Chris swings in with an alternating current and charges both of his coils. Paul defends with a reprogram, taking a whole chunk of damage, but allowing himself to reshuffle the 2 6s and the best defense card in the game into his deck, leaving the worst card in the game in his discard pile. So there we are. And Chris continues the offensive with 7 hurts into Reflex Memories. So no damage done there. The 5 defense is pretty strong. And Chris is able to spend a coil to gain an action, while Paul discards Born in the Barracks to draw 2 cards because he only had 1 card left in hand. Really good value use of the Reflex Memories there. So Paul will understandably double maneuver away and draw back up. Winter Soldier is not known for his card draw, so he understandably kind of has to take these off turns to recharge. Chris will play a remote control and proceed to do, I think, nothing with it. I think he just double maneuvers, but he had a spare card in hand, so use the remote control. And he walks right up to Winter Soldier there, which is interesting given Winter Soldier has a bionic arm. Winter Soldier will instead step back and take a shot, and it's a marksman into Lightning Storm. So it's a 3 value into a 3 value, no combat damage done there, and Chris has the opportunity to expend his coils to deal effect damage back at Winter Soldier, who is 2 health up, and they are now even at 10 health each. There is the fully charged from Chris, freely using the free economy basically, and then recharging both his coils and gaining an action again, and you can continue that aggression that Winter Soldier strongly dislikes. So here is another attack, and it's a 7 hurt into a complete the mission. So 1 damage will be going through to both of them unless Paul boosts it, and I think given the card disparity, I think he's not likely to boost it. 1 damage each is fine. And Chris spends both the coils to gain an action and draw a card. Again, keeping up that tempo, doing an almost Bruce Lee impression, continuing the assault. So here's an alternating current into a feint. That effect is strong and is cancelled, but 3 damage through to Winter Soldier is no joke. So now we're at 6 to 9. We'll see what Paul can get done here on his... Oh no, it's still Chris's turn. He gained a whole bunch of actions, it's still going. And it's a kinetic induction into wily fighting. So a 2 into a 3 blank defense, basically, in this situation. And Chris gets to recharge a coil and then charge at the end of his turn. Look at that. It's like a well-oiled machine. So Paul, knowing this, understandably takes a few steps back and gets out of Tesla's zone. And Chris only has 3 cards in hand. Having both coils charged is pretty tempting to continue that aggression. Here's the remote control. Here it is. So Winter Soldier is pulled back into Tesla's zone, and Chris has, I think, 1 more action to attack with, and it's a death ray into wily fighting. So again, the wily fighting isn't able to connect that, but the death ray could be a 5 or a 7. It depends on how aggressive Chris is feeling. Remember, he charges 1 coil for free at the end of his turn, so spending a coil is expected, and he doesn't spend the second one, so he has both coils fully on defense. And of course, if Winter Soldier throws a 6 at him, which it looks likely here because he walks up to him for no reason, he has options. So it's a bionic arm into intense experimentation, meaning that 6 into 3 is 3 damage through, and here Chris spends both coils to draw 3 cards and recover health. On the face of it, that seems like a really busted defense card, but it did use both of Tesla's coils, which he does rely on quite a lot. And right there, I think Winter Soldier was moved instead of Tesla because of Winter Soldier's bionic arm, which is just a small misunderstanding there. So here is a repulsion blast that was not defended, meaning that Paul is unlikely to have defense, but Chris says, no, we're gonna keep going here for a little bit, and we'll just maneuver. Chris showing his hand to demonstrate that he could have ended the game, but chose not to, and Paul reveals his pretty sad hand of just attack cards. So here is a maneuver and a manipulation. So Paul top decked manipulation, which is incredibly important in this situation where he gets to draw up to 5 cards. I think if he had boosted that maneuver, he could have drawn another card because he could have thrown away like a marksman and drawn 4 cards, but there you go. Chris also benefits from this and is able to draw up to 5 cards, and then of course it's his turn, so he will maneuver and just be up on cards again. And here we have Paul stepping back in, feeling a bit more confident in his defense. Chris giving us a vision into the future of what's to come. And it's a Without Remorse into a Lightning Storm. So 3 damage through into Tesla from Without Remorse, but then Chris is able to spend both coils to deal 2 lightning damage into Winter Soldier and end the game. I think the only way to avoid that was either for Paul to have healed or for him to strike with an offensive feint, which is unlikely in this kind of setup. So that's game between these solo ranged fighters. Winter Soldier managed to get Tesla down to 4, so it was still a pretty close game, but I think the initial tempo swing of the card advantage really helped Chris's case as a Tesla. Thank you for watching. If you want to support the channel, you can buy a coffee at the Recursion Cafe. The link is in the description below. Cheers, and we'll see you next time.